Hello, I am an old fart, and I have a guilty pleasure. I like knives. I'm not an expert or an official representative of anything. I just like knives. In these videos, I'm giving you a tour through my collection of small and medium-sized folding pocket knives. And today we're going to look at this one. This is a Reeve Knives large Inkosi. A knife that I've become very fond of, although it doesn't fit my original defined scope of my collection of being small gentlemen's folders, but I have fallen in love with this knife. Let's talk about why. So this all started with a couple of other Reeve knives. I have mentioned the Sebenza 31 that I like a lot, and before it I had an opportunity to pick up a used Sebenza 25, which was not in good shape, but which refurbished well to the point where I was quite pleased with it. And between these two knives, I came to understand that although they look very similar, they do have some significant differences. The 25 being heavier and sturdier and having a smoother opening mechanism. And because the Inkosi is generally called the successor to the 25, the 25's been discontinued and the Inkosi replaces it, I was pretty sure that I needed one, that it was on my things to do list. So a chance to pick up this one used came by and I jumped at it. It was used. It was in reasonably good shape. I did a cleaning and a bit of a tune-up, but it was in pretty good shape. So that's where this came from. So formally, this is a Reeve Knives Inkosi. They come in two models, large and small. This is the large. And as I said, I think this is correctly described as the successor to the Sebenza 25. Now there's a bunch of configuration options available. So this one is the drop point blade, the right-handed model, and has the natural canvas micarta inlays. Those are all choices you can make. It does seem natural to compare it to the Sebenza because they're so similar. And my overall comparison would be that the Inkosi is less decorative, the classy wood versus micarta inlays, for example, the polished titanium versus the sandblasted. So the Inkosi is less decorative, but more of a working dude knife. It's sturdier, heavier, and probably a little more of a working user knife than the Sebenza. So let's run through some things. So it's like most of the Reeve knives, it's a thumb stud operated frame lock, double-sided thumb studs on this knife. The double sides are interesting, by the way. They're more symmetric, like they look nice than functional. The stud on this side is still really too close to the body to make it a practical left-hand opening thing, although I imagine lefties learn to do it. But I think they're nice looking. Some people don't like the conical thumb studs because they say they tend to slide off them. I don't have that problem. If you remember that the Reeve knives are not designed to be flicked open. They're designed to be open slowly and smoothly and deliberately, and I find that thumb stud shape works just fine for that. This is a frame lock knife. As I've said before, Reeve invented the frame lock. It's officially called the Reeve Integral Lock, so you would expect them to do it well, and boy, they do. So slow, deliberate open, and that wonderful clunk when it opens fully, giving you a good, secure lock that does not depend on how fast you've opened the thing. One of the differences with the Sebenza has a bushing inside the pivot screw, so you tighten it all the way up and it doesn't affect the tension. This knife does not have that bushing, and so you can actually adjust the tension by adjusting the tightness of the pivot screw. You can have it looser or tighter. I have actually seen videos of people setting it loose enough that the knife will flick open, but Reeve doesn't recommend that, and I do like this kind of smooth, deliberate feeling. Another difference from the Sebenza is this thing has huge pivot washers. Just see, what do I have to do with this? There, if I go this angle, you can see them in there. See the edge of the phosphor bronze washer. It's actually larger than the radius of the heel of the knife blade. So huge pivot washers, so a very large surface for the friction of the opening, and the result is that it is extremely smooth opening, even smoother than the Sebenza, which itself kind of sets a standard for smoothness. Let's talk about the size. Well, not surprisingly, it is essentially it's identical to the Sebenza 25 or 35, 31, Sebenza 31, and the Sebenza 25. They are all the same size knife. It is a large knife, not a huge knife, but it is definitely in the large category. Just by way of comparison, there's the small Inkosi, and as you can see, it is much larger than the small Inkosi, considerably larger than the mini Griptilian, my usual comparator for knife sizes. To use a more scientific size metric, it is about 1.2 pocket calculators. The blade is well over 3 inches. It's a 3.6 inch blade, so it's way into the territory that is not okay if you're in a 3-inch jurisdiction. This is also a heavy knife. It's 143 grams, which is heavier than the Sebenza, which is 133. So was that about 10% heavier? And about twice the weight of the mini Griptilian, which comes in at 70-something grams. So it's a heavy knife. You notice it in your hand. There's a heft there, and you notice it in your pocket. The blade is thicker than the blade on the Sebenza, not much, but a couple of hundredths of an inch. And just overall, you get a feeling of mechanical sturdiness with this knife. This is the drop point blade, because I really like drop point blades, but there are 2 other blade designs available. There's a Tanto and another one they call, I think, the Insingo, which is a sort of a halfway between a drop point and a Tanto. I really like drop point blades, so easy choice for me. Still the standard Chris Reeve steel. This is S35 VN. There is, according to their website, there is an S45 coming. And once that's out and available, and has the bugs worked out of it, I will probably want to give it a try. Good sized sharpening choil. So there's no issue between that and the conical shape of the studs. I have not had any issue at all sharpening with encountering the studs and marring them. It works just fine. So, nice blade, beautiful shape, cuts well. The body is also similar to the Sebenza, a few differences. One is that it's this rough, textured, sandblasted titanium everywhere. There's no polished faces like there are on the Sebenza. And it has inlays, where the Sebenza has a single-piece wood inlay. This uses strips of inlays. And the inlays are kind of more working-looking materials. There's various micartas and things available. So this is the canvas micarta. I really like the looks of the inlay, and micarta has a wonderful feeling in the hand. And again, unlike the Sebenza, there are 2 finger recesses on this knife, so you get a really secure grip. They're in a wonderful position, just naturally fall under the fingers, so it's a very well sculpted handle. Clip is the same clip as the Sebenza. It's bent titanium. It mounts in a recess milled into the body, so it's very secure. It is a shallow carry clip. I think I mentioned before, I like deep carry clips. And there are aftermarket ones available for these knives, but I tried one in one of the Sebenzas and didn't really like the look, so I've gone back to this one. This particular knife doesn't have a lanyard, but I think they do have lanyards. There's no lanyard hole. There is a lanyard pin, but different from the Sebenza. On the Sebenza, the lanyard pin has a hole in it, and the lanyard passes through the pin, and the pin is free rotating. The Inkosi is a fixed pin, and as you can see, it's kind of pulley-shaped, so the lanyard goes around the pin on this knife if you want one in. I assume the previous owner of this knife removed the lanyard, because I didn't. It would be important on this knife, if you put a lanyard in, to make sure that it's snug against the pin, because if it's got any amount of play in it, the lanyard would be able to encounter the blade in there and would eventually fray. So a lanyard would have to be nice and snug if it's in. As I said, this knife didn't come with one, and I haven't felt any need to put it in, so I'm probably going to leave it like this. I usually comment on whether knives are ambidextrous. No, very much not. Because of the frame mechanism, it's all on one side, and it's quite awkward to work with the left hand. However, there are fully left-handed versions available of the Chris Reeve knives, so you can get a left hand or a right hand, but they're not ambidextrous. And finally, for those for whom this is important, it is made in the US, and it proudly says so. Idaho made on the end there. So that's kind of the overview of the knife. Let's talk about what I like about it. Well, there is a lot to like. First, okay, this is shallow, but pride of ownership. I love Chris Reeve knives, and I like owning them. It's a famous brand. It makes me feel good to own one. People who know knives know Chris Reeve, and they know the Inkosi, and they're impressed. Ooh, Chris Reeve, oh my god, is that an Inkosi? So I like that. People who know knives are impressed. People who don't know knives are an opportunity to feel superior. I can show them this knife, and they don't realize what an amazing piece of machining they're holding. So just great pride of ownership. I like the appearance. I like the understated nature of the Chris Reeve knives. Unadorned, functional looking. The only writing on the knife is Idaho made here, and the very subtle Chris Reeve logo on this side. Nothing on the blade, so understated, simple appearance. I like the inlay design. I think the strips are attractive. I like the way that it's cut to match the shaping of the finger grooves. Micarta is a great choice for the material, by the way. It develops a weathered looking, sort of working looking appearance, sort of like comfortable old denim. So I like that. I like the sturdiness. This is a heavy, sturdy knife with no slightest hint of blade play or insecurity. This or the 25 are what I reach for when I have sort of actual work to do. As opposed to just I want to have a knife with me in case. No, if I'm picking up a knife to go and do something, to cut down a whole bunch of heavy boxes or something, this is the knife I pick up. Nothing I do is going to challenge it, except abuse. Now, if there's a risk of abuse, I use the Sebenza 25 because it was older and in worse shape, and I feel less parental love. But I just love this as a working knife. I like the mechanism. This is the smoothest opening knife in my collection. It is just a pleasure to slide open and slide closed. Now, the Sebenza was the smoothest opening knife in my collection until I added the Inkosi. The Sebenza is really damn good, and this is better. There are knives that are supposed to be even smoother than this, but they're in a price range that I haven't reached yet. Maybe someday, but right now this is, by a large margin, the smoothest opening, most secure feeling knife in my collection. I especially love that clunk when it locks open. Next, the blade. I like the blade a lot. I like drop point blades. I like the shape. It uses a large radius hollow grind, so the flat surface of the blade here is not flat. It is a gentle concave grind, which adds interesting reflections and makes it a better cutting tool because there's a sort of a non-linear growth in thickness of the blade to help part the material that you're cutting without getting hung up in it. I like the steel. I like S35VN steel. And I like the finish of this blade. I don't know the right term. I think, is it satin finished? But it's less mirror polished than the Sebenza. And as a result, it doesn't fingerprint quite as badly. I'm constantly fretting over the fingerprints that my greasy thumbs have left on the Sebenza blade. And I don't have to do that as often with the Inkosi. I think it tolerates use much more without looking like it's been soiled. Comfortable knife to hold. I like the weight. I like the balance. I like the finger grooves. I like the micarta. And finally, I like this lanyard pin better than the lanyard pin on the Sebenza, because on the Sebenza, if you take the lanyard out, the pin rattles, and that drives me crazy. So this one being fixed does not. So I like a lot of things about this knife. Now, just for the hell of it, what don't I like? Well, not much. There's not much to dislike about this. I mean, I'll say a couple of things that aren't really complaints. One is that this is not a decorative knife, and it doesn't try to be. So, this is not pocket jewelry for the tuxedo. This is pocket jewelry for the knife fanciers. The second thing is the blade wasn't bragging sharp when I received it. Now, reminder, I bought this used, so I have no idea what it was like from the factory. But by the time I received it, it was sharp. It was probably sharp enough. I mean, this is a working knife. But it wasn't mirror sharp, bragging sharp. I eventually actually chipped the blade by doing something stupid. I was doing some heavy cutting, taking apart a large number of thick corrugated cardboard boxes, and I was cutting down onto concrete. And a couple of times I didn't control the cut, and I sort of went thwack, and I hit the concrete. And the next day I looked and realized I had a couple of tiny microchips in the blade. Broke my heart. So pro tip, don't do that. Don't cut down onto concrete. So anyway, I resharpened it. S35VN sharpens well, and as you can see, I was able to put a mirror edge on it, and I think it's just beautiful. But in any case, it will chip. It's not the hardest steel, and from the previous owner, it wasn't as sharp as I like. Hardly a complaint. So let's run through my knife rating systems. We start with NTGK, the non-threatening gentleman's knife. Now, let me say up front, this is not trying to be a non-threatening gentleman's knife, so it's not going to score well. So, non-threatening. The good news is the slow opening. You can open it slowly. So it isn't going to scare people by flying open like a switchblade. In fact, you kind of have to open it slowly. So that's a real plus in its favor for non-threatening. You also can open it two-handed if you're in front of really nervous people. So they don't even need to know that you can open the knife one-handed. And it's understated. It has no scary decorations, no zombies, no jagged tactical edges on it. So those are all good things for being non-threatening. The bad is, well, it's just too large. For an office of sort of professional knowledge workers who aren't knife people, this is just too big to be non-threatening. You take this out of your pocket, they don't know what that is, you open it, and the reaction is, oh my God, what are you doing with a hunting knife in the office? It's just too big. So I'd give it like a B+ for non-threatening. How about gentleman's knife? As a gentleman's knife, well, the good news is pride of ownership. Gentlemen like to carry fine things. It is a fine machine. You can get a lot of pleasure out of operating it. The bad is it's big. It's a really big to be a gentleman's knife. You don't wear that in your tuxedo. It's heavy, so it weighs down your pocket and deforms that side of your dress pants. And being large and with the shallow carry clip, it's quite intrusive sticking out of your pocket. So, not a gentleman's knife. Not what it's designed for. I'd give it a B there. So I'm going to give it a B+ overall as an NTGK. Next rating would be my KN rating, which is a rating of what my knife nerd friends will think. And there it's going to get an easy A+. It is a famous brand that they know and respect, but a lesser-known model. A lot of knife nerds who have a Chris Reeve or know Chris Reeve know or have only the Sebenza. So this is a lesser-known model, which is kind of cool. That adds to the fun of showing it off to knife nerds. And handling it, everybody loves that mechanism. My God, that is beautiful to work. And the blade is fine, good steel, nice shape, carefully ground, beautifully finished. Knife nerds love this thing. A+. And finally, the CMR, the cut myself rating. Well, despite obsessively playing with this knife, just can't stop, I've never cut myself, so it gets an A. And that brings us to the end. I'll just summarize. This or this, one of these is my favorite knife. And maybe I'll just plead that I can't have one favorite. The Inkosi is my favorite for working use. The 31 is almost as capable and more handsome. So a dress knife, except it's really too big to be a dress knife, and a working knife. So one of these is my favorite, depending on the circumstances. And it is certainly the most satisfying knife I have to just manipulate, to open and close, and to hold in the hand and cut with. It's a great knife. It manages to be both ultra high quality fit and finish, but not seem decorative. It's a working knife that's just very well made. I really like it. Thanks for watching. See you again next time. Bye-bye.